Hey there, it's Katie again, coming to you from my pottery room, and we are going to talk all things cannabis today. Cannabis medicine, cannabis as a plant spirit ally, cannabis spirituality as a practice. I'm going to share with you more about my personal practice. I'm going to show you my stash box. And let's see, we might get into a couple of my favorite different settings or intentions behind cannabis use. So, with that, let's talk a little bit about how I got into cannabis to begin with. First of all, I never tried it in high school. I didn't come to it until I was in my 30s. You can read more about that the first time I got high on my blog. But there was something that was always very curious to me about the plant, but I was also very fearful. And so I've had a relationship with her now for over 10 years. I've used her recreationally. I've misused her. I've overused her. And now I feel very comfortable and confident with my current practice. And I feel like it really augments and enhances so much of my life and so much of the spirituality practices that I have in place. Cannabis just partners well with that, as well as a lot of my practices around the feminine divine. So we'll get into that at the end of the video. Let's talk a little bit about what you need as far as like a stash box and different supplies and kind of how that goes into my personal practice. So without further ado, here is my stash box, adorned with some beautiful stickers. Inside of it, this tray is a joint rolling tray, lift off. I love, cannabis is feminine medicine. And so I love to have little hints of the feminine. So this is a hanky that was, embroidered either by my grandmother or my great grandmother. I have a couple of tools here for loading pre-rolls. So we'll talk about pre-rolls in a second. Here's an empty pre-roll. So what you can do is you can grind the plant material in, and then you can pack that in to these pre-rolls, and then you smoke it like a joint. So it's much easier than putting the flower into a wrapper and then wrapping a joint. I will say joints are for seasoned cannabis users, new to cannabis users. You don't need that much plant medicine to get the desired outcome and the desired effect. Where I use joints or pre-rolls, I have never rolled a joint in my life, I'm going to be honest. It's not a skill I feel like I need. I know some cool people who can roll some really great joints. So, but here's how I use the pre-rolls, or this more of the medicine is in community. When you're coming together with a group of people that you love and you want to enjoy some cannabis together, there's nothing cooler than passing around a joint or a pre-roll and everybody taking a hit from it and laughing and coming together in community. Or I've also heard of times where you smoke a joint during difficult conversations or through actively grieving. So there's lots of ways to use her medicine, but that's one way to consume her is in a pre-roll. How I personally use pre-rolls, because I don't use that much medicine. A half a joint is too much for me. So how I use pre-rolls is just like cannabis is a plant, right? There are a lot of other plant medicines out there that we can consume through inhalation. And so there's smoking herbs you can get in variety of different settings. I personally got these smoking herbs from a beautiful place in Mankato, Minnesota called Lakota Maid. It's a beautiful indigenous Lakota woman who forages the local area and picks plant medicines and then puts them together in a little tin for smoking. So this one is like a dream smoke. It has things like Roman chamomile in it and rose petals to open the heart, mugwort, which is known to give more vivid dreams. And so I really love to partner and cannabis with other herbs that are smokable. So if I'm in like a group setting and we're all passing a joint around, I might add in one of these smoking herbs to just really enhance and heighten that plant medicine effect. So, and give you really cool dreams. And it's also, the flavor is amazing. And to like have the balance between the two, the flavor of the cannabis and the flavor of the smoking herbs is really, really fun. So Inside of my stash box, you will see it here, a very wide array, huge assortment of different cannabises. Not different cannabises, different chemotypes of cannabis. So I'm going to show you one of my favorite dispensaries in Michigan called Higher Love. I mean, who doesn't want to buy their cannabis from a company that's called Higher Love, right? This is a self-love medicine. So you'll see variety of different packaging opportunities here. Sometimes it can be very child-proof, but these I like. They're just little squeeze tops. And then here's the medicine on the inside. So me personally right now, I have 12 different chemotypes of cannabis. I love to experience the different chemotypes and for me, cannabis is a plant of embodiment. And so for me to inhale plant medicine and then to sit with it and be with it for those first 10, 15 minutes to really feel the effects of it and how my body interacts with it, I like to do that individually with each one of the chemotypes so that I know, like right now, my favorite is Cherry Garcia. It is so uplifting and so giggly, and it's great. It's really been a great medicine for me. The other one that I'm really into, and sometimes the names, I mean, take it or leave it, is Pound Town. So this is also from a Michigan dispensary. And here's how I acquired this medicine. And this is one of my passions in educating women in particular around how they consume their cannabis and how they ask for what they want. I went into a dispensary very grounded, very in my body, and I said, this is the experience that I'm looking for. And this is what's important to me when I'm consuming cannabis. Like for me, it's important to have cannabis that's either been grown by women or people in the community of BIPOC and indigenous peoples. I feel like those were the peoples that were hurt the most by the prohibition, and I just want to be the one. I want to consume their medicine. I believe that the intention and the love in that medicine increases its healing effects. And so I went in and I said I would, here's what my preferences are. And I had a great bud tender, and you can't guarantee all the bud tenders are really going to know all that there is to know. And so he was great. He spent some time doing some research. And he gave me an assortment to choose from. And once he kind of explained each one of them to me, I knew exactly what I was looking for. And so that is one way that you can, enter in confident as a consumer in cannabis, is to enter into the dispensaries and just know exactly what you want and name what you want. This particular one is indica leaning. So we've kind of gotten out of the indica versus sativa because everything has been really crossbred. But if a good cannabis will have, do you see how there's all different, they have the terpene profile on here. There's a lot of different results from the lab testing right here on the back of the package. And so I can see that, I'm going to sneeze, maybe not. This one is high in myrcene, and it's also high in beta-caryophyllene. And so those terpenes are as equally as important as if it's a sativa or an indica. That's really what's giving you that feeling and that effect. And so knowing your terpenes and knowing how your body interacts with the terpenes is really key in finding the medicine that's right for you. Now, when we're looking at things like edibles, a lot of the terpenes are cooked out of that. Now, some companies will put terpenes back in, but it's really not the full effect as it's just straight flower medicine. So something to take into consideration is what terpenes, what's the effect you're looking for, and then what terpenes do you need for that effect. And then, of course, a grinder. It's important. You got to be able to grind the plant down. So you put the bud in there. You can see a little bud left over, and then you grind it up. And then this is the kind of blender I prefer because it kind of can hold your bud for after it's been ground. So then here's the ground, okay? And then there's another chamber here at the very bottom. And this is what we call keef, which is like all of the droppings, for lack of a better word in this moment, of the cannabis. And so that is very kind of concentrated cannabis medicine, and that can be sprinkled, like you could sprinkle it on a pre-roll like this that has just smoking herbs in it and can have a little bit of a high effect. You can add it to, you know, anywhere you're using cannabis, you can add it for more concentrated cannabis. And the other thing I have is a pendulum. Anybody knows what a pendulum is? A pendulum really is anything that's got a weight at the bottom of it. And it's really an extension of our intuition. I won't get into that a whole lot today, but when I want to verify with my body, like, ooh, what chemo type am I looking for? Like, what experience, what medicine is my body looking for right now? I'll ask the pendulum, and I'll just hold the pendulum over each of the different chemotypes. And what my personal practice is I blend cannabis. Currently, I think what I showed you here in the grinder is 3 different kinds of cannabis brought together for a very specific intention and purpose. And that's more of like a balance between a body high and creativity. That's currently kind of my vibe right now and what I'm looking for and creating as I'm using it in my spiritual and energetic practices. Last thing is, I showed this a little bit to you last time, but I'm going to share more about it. This is an Air Riser Solo 2. Air Riser is the brand, Solo 2 is the model. This is the second kind of generation of this type of dry herb vaporizer. You turn it on, it heats up the plant material. You'll see here's where you pack the plant material in this little spot here. This nicely plugs in like this. It's super easy to clean. And then you inhale the vapor, which doesn't have the harmful hot cough that it does like if you were to use a oney or a pipe. Okay, those are the other ways that you can smoke cannabis. The vaporizer, there's a lot of benefits to the vaporizer. It's really, in my opinion, the only way to consume cannabis. That's just my personal opinion. I have a lot of range in how I can control the flavor. I get the flavor. I don't get the butane from the lighter. It's enough medicine. I don't really need more than that. And it's a much gentler build. It's not like an inhale and it's like, boom, whoa, I'm high, so it's my preferred method. And for those who don't like to smoke or who haven't smoked, it's just an easy hit. Whereas something like this is kind of like a pipe, kind of like a oney. It's called an icky stick. I haven't really been able to find it. My husband bought it for me because I was kind of a wimp. Like I didn't want the burn and I didn't want that nasty burnt taste in my mouth or sucking and then getting these big chunks of burnt plant in my mouth. And so this particular thing, I won't get into it too much, but it cooled the smoke down. So this went like this. You put the plant material in this little compartment here, and then you screwed it on here. You light it here. You suck here. This is a nice, it's a nice thing to have. I never use it though, because I am all about the vaporizer. All right, so that's a little bit about how I choose my cannabis. Sometimes I use a pendulum, sometimes I don't. I know each individual cannabis chemotype and what it does for me. And then I blend them for desired effects. So I know what I'm taking at any given time, right? Very rarely do I ever consume medicine that's not been prepared by myself. Every once in a while, like with trusted friends, I'll smoke off of a joint. But I always want to know where my medicine is coming from. I want to know what my medicine is and how my body's going to react to it. There's nothing worse than like going to a party that you really want to engage in and you're smoking a joint and then it's like a heavy indica and you can't really engage because you're just like totally stoned, right? So I always, I smoke my own medicine. Let's talk a little bit about some of the ways in which I incorporate cannabis into my spiritual practices and kind of how I work with the feminine divine. Some of my favorite ways to consume cannabis is watching media. So I got stoned and went to Maverick with my husband, which was awesome. Again, cannabis is a non-specific amplifier. She will potentiate feelings and experiences. And so you know, I don't know if anybody's been out there that's watched Maverick. It's like a very like action packed. And so imagine having that action packed feeling a little heightened, and you can kind of feel the oomphs and all the turns, and you can just feel a little bit more in your body. And as a mystic, like that's fun for me, right? Like that brings me great joy. Now I will say, like, if you want to like have more of like a recreational or play experience, you can also use it for really healing experiences. I love to get stoned and watch documentaries on powerful people. And the way that the plant medicine interacts with our bodies and our consciousness, it just opens you up to this higher level of consciousness that allows you to connect more fully and deeply to the unseen world, to the world of nature. And then these lessons just kind of drop in. And sometimes they're really hard lessons where you're like, damn, that was for me. But cannabis seems to like soften the blow of some of those lessons that our ego has to face so that our soul can rise. That is the magic of plant medicine in my mind. I was driving down the road I was not driving, I was riding. I was not under the influence of cannabis while driving a vehicle. My husband was driving. I was stoned in Hawaii. And we were driving down the road, and it was just like this wave that came over me. And in that wave was just all of this knowing and all of this awareness and all of this consciousness around how I was contributing to my own state of suffering by repeating old patterns. And I was able to look at that and face it, not with guilt or shame or anything other than self-love of, wow, you didn't know that before, but now you do. And now you need to make different choices. Now, do I think that I would have come around to that without cannabis? Maybe. It might have taken me longer. It might have been a much harsher fall. But I know that cannabis has increased my awareness, connected me to my body's wisdom in a way that no other medicine can, really, truly. So I love to get stoned and watch movies with intention. And sometimes that intention is to unplug and laugh my ass off, and that's okay. I want us to get away from this fear of euphoria that we're by choosing euphoria, we're somehow checking out or we're numbing out or we're escaping. I know I've told this story again, but I'm gonna tell it again because I think it's that important. Jaguars chew on a root, and I think it's the root of the ayahuasca plant. I could be wrong on that. After they've hunted to come down from their stress, to replenish and restore their body. There's nothing wrong with euphoria. We need some lightheartedness. We need some giggles. We need some high time. We do. There's nothing to be afraid of in that. And there's nothing wrong in that. Other animals in the animal kingdom do it. Why are we as humans, the ones who are kind of like the rulers of the animal and the plant world, who carry a great deal of stress, we have a plant that's born to help us resolve our stress. Why are we so afraid to take advantage of that? So in circle, in group with other people in the community, having high vibe conversations, love to smoke weed in those settings. But here's my favorite. I love at the end of the night when it's quiet and it's dark out to take my medicine and to put in earphones and to just breathe and to just be in the experience of my body in those moments. That's some of my most favorite ways of coming into relationship with the cannabis plant spirit. And then just waiting for her to open up what needs to be opened up, and waiting for her to reveal to me what my soul's been wanting to reveal to me. It's when I have my most creative ideas, my biggest insights, my biggest ahas, and then partner that with other somatic practices. I've used cannabis in breath work. It's the first time I heard my inner voice, life-changing, from inside of me. I mean, it was awesome. I've used cannabis, and this is part of learning your medicine, is where you're at in the high to engage and engage in those practices, right? Like nobody wants to do yoga super stoned, but as you're coming down, that's a perfect time. Like you're at like that hour window for me anyway. That's really when I want to be doing yoga. Breath work right away. I want to potentiate the breath work. I want to potentiate the medicine. I want to feel to the max. Breath work towards the beginning of your smoke session. Creativity, clay is of course my second. Okay, so my first favorite is clay. My second favorite is with good tunes and just feeling and exploring in my body. Movement, dance. Oh God, dance, so good. Ecstatic dance. I mean, you don't really need pot for that, but if you want to take it to the next level, take a couple hits. What other ways do I love to use hermetic sex and intimacy? It'll heighten things, or it might make things more complicated for you. That's why it's important. This is a patient-empowered medicine. It's important to know you, your body, how you interact with the medicine, and again, coming back to the set and the setting and the intention of why you're using her. So I said art, creativity, and then, okay, so I have a lot of favorite ways to use her. I can't rate them all. In nature. And that's the last one I'll share with you. In the summers, my most favorite thing to do is to grab a blanket and to lay on the ground underneath a tree, get stoned, and just watch nature. Just watch, to just be quiet and to watch. Last year, I remember laying down on the ground and looking at the grass and how there's this this entire world that's happening underneath our feet that we are very, very little, like we have very little awareness around. All the different bugs, watching the wind blow the grass, seeing what different animals come close to you, and engaging with animal medicine and resting next to and close to Mother Earth. As I said before, cannabis is a female plant. It is a very feminine energy that she gives us. And she connects us to those divine feminine qualities that so many of us are disconnected from, because we've lived in a male-dominated society, right? And so the idea of rest and leisure and play and relaxation are all these things that, the divine feminine really kind of doesn't stand for, but those are, qualities and practices of the divine feminine that so many of us are out of touch with. And that's what she can really offer us. That is what she has done for me, is she has allowed me to rest. I was traumatized and in stress mode all the fucking time. And it was when I started taking this medicine that things started to slow down for me, and I was able to find rest, leisure, and play. Those were words that were totally elusive to me. And so using her in nature as a way to come more into relationship with nature, into the natural rhythms and patterns of nature, into the natural rhythms and patterns of our bodies, that is how she heals us. She is a bridge and a conduit between spirit and our bodies, between nature and our bodies. And there's nothing to be afraid about in that. There might be some lessons. There might be some holy shit moments, but it's nothing you can't handle. And you'll be better for it. And the work that she offers is us to detach from the ego attachments, detach from the 3D ways of being, and elevates our states of awareness and consciousness to live more fully in our truth, more fully in our bodies, and more fully human and divine at the same time. That's what she does. She's an entheogen. She connects us to the divine inside. And it's magical. And so I'm here to share more about her magic and how to use her with intention and how not to be afraid. So with that, I will leave you. Thanks for your time and attention. Please, if there's other questions that I can be answering for you, if there's burning questions on your heart, feel free to leave them in the comments. Shoot me a message on Instagram or Facebook, and I would love to answer some of your questions. With that, I will sign off. Happy Wednesday. Be free, be you, be alive. All right, take care.